Good day, guys. So this is another episode of our WEBCUSSION in our subject Mathematics in the Modern World. So this is a continuation of our topic in data management. So in this video, we will be studying about correlation and regression analysis. Okay, so let's start. Correlation and regression analysis are one of the most commonly used techniques for investigating the relationship between two or more quantitative variables. So, in linear regression kasi, we do have kahit ilang variables yung pwede nating i-check in terms of relationship. But in correlation, it is between two quantitative variables. So, the main goal of a correlation analysis is to see whether two measurement variables co-vary and to quantify the strength of relationship. Ibig sabihin, dito gusto nating makita gaano nga ba kataas or katindi yung relationship nung dalawang variables natin. Is it decreasing or increasing, positive ba or negative, and kapag low or high or mababa lang yung kanyang relationship doon sa ating dalawang variables. While regression expresses the relationship in a form of equation. So, in a form of equation, it means na doon sa relationship na makikita natin between the two, gaano nga ba katindi in terms of unit, yung isang unit ba ng isang variable natin, gaano makakaapekto sa ating isang variable. Okay, to see that relationship or the difference between correlation and regression analysis, we do have here a scenario, a picture. So, for example, in students taking a math and English test, we could use correlation. Pwede natin gamitin si correlation to see if those students who excel in math are also good in English. Okay? Kung nakita natin that students are also best in mathematics, we do see that those students who excel in math are also best in English. So, yun yung correlation analysis. Gusto nating makita na kapag magaling sila sa math, magaling din sila sa English. Okay? While on the other hand, regression analysis used to determine whether the marks in English can be predicted or whether the marks in mathematics can be predicted for given marks in English. Okay? So, in their performance in English test, if they perform well, does it mean na mataas din yung score nila in mathematics? So, yun yung gusto nating makita in regression analysis. Okay? So, those are the differences na makikita natin in regression and correlation analysis. Okay? So, isa-isahin natin. So, there are many ways to compute for the correlation. Specifically, kailangan natin malaman muna yung types ng variable na meron tayo in order to go on with our different process na pwede natin gamitin in correlation analysis. So, a simple correlation analysis is a technique used to describe the relationship or association between variables. So, in correlation analysis, we can use person-product moment, correlation coefficient. We can also use Spearman's rank correlation. Next, we can also use Pointbiserial Correlation, and the last one is the phi coefficient. So later on, we'll be discussing kung ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng apat at saan natin pwede gamitin yung correlation analysis na yun. So first, we have the person product moment correlation coefficient, or also known as persons R. Okay, person correlation. Okay, if we want to check the person correlation, we are simply checking. We want to know if the degree of the relationship between two variables which are measured in an interval scale. So it is important to note that our persons are correlation analysis can be used if our variables have or our variables are measured or are interval scale. So, dapat interval yung ating mga data para ma-determine natin that we can use person, product, moment correlation coefficient, or persons R. Okay, so in persons correlation, we can use this equation as presented on our screen. Okay, so our R is equal to the summation of our x sub I minus the mean of the x multiplied to y sub I minus the mean of the y over the square root of the summation of our x sub I minus the mean of the x square and the summation of our y sub I minus the mean of the y square. Okay, so in order to interpret our correlation, we do use this interpretation. So if their result in R is 0.1 to 0.20, they have no or weak relationship. Okay, if they have 0.21 to 0.40, they have moderate relationship. For 0.41 to 0.70, they do have substantial relationship. For 0.71, they have strong relationship. And for 0.91 to 0.99, we do have very strong relationship. Okay? Minsan, hindi tayo nakakakuha ng very, very strong to the point na dapat equal sa 1 kasi it means na yung data is pwedeng medyo bias kasi if sinabi nating 1 yung relationship nila, pag 1 yung isa, dapat 1 din yung pangalawa, and so on and so forth. So definitely ito yung ginagamit nating interpretation. It also matters na kapag yung nakuha nating result ay negative or positive kasi lalabas din yon sa ating interpretation. So in your handouts, makikita din natin yung differences between a perfect positive and a perfect negative relationship by using scatter plot. So you can refer to your handouts para makita natin yung differences ng ating mga relationships. Okay? So let's have an example. Okay, so for example, in our persons R, to compute persons R, we consider the score obtained in mathematics as our X and in statistics as our Y subjects by 10 students. So here is the data. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is to organize the data by using this table as presented on our screen. So para mas madalian tayo, we can use this table, okay, para may guide tayo in computing our relationship or persons R. Okay, so after we organize data, we solve for the summation of our scores. Okay, so the summation of our X and the summation of our Y. So for this example, we have math scores. So we just get the summation of our X. So 4 plus 5 plus 9 plus 2 plus 8 plus 1 plus 2 plus 7 plus 6 plus 4 is equal to 48. And the summation of Y, we have 5 plus 4 plus 8 plus 3 plus 9 plus 2 plus 1 plus 6 plus 7 plus 5, which is equal to 50. So that is our summation. Okay, after we solve the summation, the next thing that we have to do is to solve for the mean of the X and the mean of our Y. So in solving the mean, since it consists of 10 data, so definitely we can use the AND group formula for mean. Okay, so we have the mean of the X is equal to summation of X over the N, or the number of observation. So the summation of X is 48 over yung number of observation natin, we have 10. So we have 48 divided by 10, it is equal to 4.8. While our mean ng Y natin is the summation of our Y over N, which is equal to 50 over 10, which is 5.0. So the mean of our X is 48 and the mean of our Y is 5.0. So bakit kailangan natin kunin si mean? Because on the next part of our table, we have to get the difference of our X sub I minus the mean. Okay, so first we have the X. Unahin muna natin si X, si math score. So we have the table X sub I minus the mean. So to get that, we will be using the mean, which is 4.8. Okay, so our x sub 1 is 4. So, doon tayo sa x, yung x sub 1 natin, yung una doon sa math score natin is 4, minus yung min na nakuha natin, which is 4.8. So, 4 minus 4.8 is equal to negative 0.8. Next, we have x sub 2. Okay? So, x sub 2 is 5 minus 4.8 is equal to 0.2. Okay? So, we have our x sub 1 minus mean is negative 0.8. as shown in our screen, and then x sub 2 minus the mean is equal to 0.2, and so on and so forth. So for you to verify the result in our table, you can compute for the rest of the data natin. Okay, so that's the third column in our table. Okay, next, after computing for x sub I minus the mean, next we have to compute the y, the statistics score. Okay, so we have y sub I minus y mean, or the mean of the y. Okay, so the mean of the y, we all know we got 5.0. So we have y1, which is 5. Okay, tingnan natin dun sa statistics scores. So y, the first data that we have is 5. Okay, so y1 is, y sub 1 is 5 minus our mean, which is 5.0. So 5 minus 5 is 0. Then we have y sub 2 minus the mean is 4 minus 5, which is the mean of the y, which is equal to negative 1. Okay, so minsan may mga pagkakataon pa rin na we can have negative because yung data natin ay hindi, meron pa rin pwedeng magkaroon pa rin ng mas mataas yung ating mean kaysa doon sa ating mga data. Okay, but it does not matter doon sa ating table, kasi by the next column, square naman natin siya, and we all know kapag in-square natin siya, the resulting value is always positive. Okay, so for our next column, we have x sub I minus the mean square. So definitely, ni-square lang natin yung ating third column, which is x sub I minus x mean. Okay, so we have negative 0.8 square, we have 0.64, and then we have x sub 2 minus the mean of the x square, which is 0.2 square, which is equal to 0.04. Then after we get yung buong data natin doon sa row number 5, the square of our x sub I minus x mean, we will be getting the summation of it. Okay, so the summation of x sub 1 or x sub I minus our x, the mean of our x square is 65.6. Okay, so that is the summation, okay, of our x sub I minus the mean of the x square. Then after we get the summation no ating x, sunod naman natin si y. Okay, so we have y sub I minus the mean square. So definitely square naman natin yung ating fourth column. So we have the square of the 0 is 0, the square of negative 1 is 1. Okay, and then the square of 3 is 9, and so on and so forth. Okay, so then we get the summation. After solving for the square of the column 4, we get the summation as equal to 60. Okay, so that's the 6th column. And then the last part of our table, we have x sub I minus the mean of the x quantity multiplied to the quantity of y sub I minus the mean of the y. So we'll be just multiplying column number 3 and 4. So negative 0.8 times 0 is definitely 0. 0.2 times negative 1 is negative 0.2, and so on and so forth. Okay, then we derive 58 as the summation. Okay, so we have 658 as the summation of our x sub I minus the mean of the x, and y sub I minus the mean of the y, which is 58. Okay, so I think nakompleto na natin yung table natin. So our next step, after we complete the table, we solve for our I. So from our computation, we got these results. Okay, so we have the summation of x, which is 48, the summation of y, which is 50, the mean of the x is 48, and the mean of the y, which is 5. Then we get the summation of x sub I minus x mean square, which is equal to 65.6, summation of y sub I minus y mean square is equal to 60, and the summation of x sub I minus x mean quantity y sub I minus y mean is 58. Then our r, so we'll be using the formula. Okay, so we'll be having r, which is equal to the summation of x sub I minus mean quantity y sub I minus the mean, which is 58. Okay, over the square root of 65.6 times 60, which is the summation na presented sa ating screen. Okay, so we have 58 over 62.72. Okay, and we get 0.92. So ano nga ba yung 0.92 natin in our interpretation of our data? So 0.92, it says there that our data has a very strong positive relationship. Okay, very strong positive relationship. So there is a very strong positive relationship between math score and statistics score. Okay, so that's for persons R. Okay, next we have Spearman's rank correlation. So it is important to note that the Spearman's rank correlation may be used when variables of interest are measured in an ordinal scale. Ibig sabihin, meron tayong order. Okay, so for example, we have in Spearman's rank, we use this equation. So our R sub S is equal to 1 minus 6, which is a constant, times the summation of our D, which is the difference of our paired ranks. Okay, square, D sub I square, minus over our n quantity n square minus 1. So that's the summation, that's the formula for our Spearman's rank. So let's have an example. For example, we have to determine the degree of relationship between math and statistics scores of 7 students. Okay, of 10 students. Okay, so ordinal data because we will be using ranking. Okay, kaya Spearman's rank. We will be ranking our scores, so it does not matter if it is ascending or descending. Okay, for this example, in our example, we'll be using ascending ranking. Okay, so first we organize the data like this one. Okay, then after we organize, we complete our table. Okay, so for our third column, we have the rank of our math score. So we can label it as math rank. Okay, so definitely yung first natin, which is 3, this is the ranking of 35 as our x sub I among our 10 math score. So that is third, while yung isa naman is first or 1. Dahil yun yung number 1 in ranking natin, we have 28 using ascending. Okay, so and so on, makikita natin how do we arrange math ranking. Okay, next we do have a statistics rank. So just like what we did in our math rank, we just rank the scores in a statistics. So definitely the first one is 30, And yung first natin, yung y sub 1 natin is, which is 38, will rank as fourth. Okay, and so on and so forth doon sa ating mga data in our statistics course. So definitely napakadali lang nitong ating Spearman's rank because we'll just be using ranking. Okay, so we'll rank our x, we'll rank our y. To come up with our next table, next column, we have our D, which is the difference between the rankings of the two variables. So since we're talking about difference, it is also important to note that the differences, or sabihin nating the distance, okay, of the two ranking, kasi distance siya kasi we use absolute value. Okay, so walang negative na magiging result for our D. Okay, or definitely kapag may negative naman, the next we have D square, magiging positive pa rin siya. But in this specific example, this is specific in our discussion, we'll be using the distance para mas madali sa atin. Okay, to come up with the difference between math and the statistics score. So we have 1 because 3 minus 4, the absolute value of 3 minus 4 is 1. Negative 1, the absolute value of negative 1 is 1. Then our next, we have 9 minus 10, which is also negative 1, and the absolute value of negative 1 is 1. So that is our differences. So you can do the rest of the differences para ma-check nyo, and you try to compute also with the Spearman's rank. Next, we have our D square. Okay, so we'll be just squaring our D. So the square of 1 is 1, the square of 1 is 1, the square of 0 is 0, and so on and so forth. After we square, we can get the summation of the D square, kasi yun yung kakailanganin natin in our formula. So we have the summation of D square, which is 92. Okay, so take note of that, yung 92, because we'll be using that in our formula. Okay, so we have 92 as the summation of our D square. So we can now compute our R. So by using the formula for Spearman's rank, we can have R, which is equal to 1, constant siya, minus 6, which is also constant, times yung summation ng D square natin, which is 92, over N. So our N is 10, multiply to the quantity of N square, which is 10 square, minus 1. Then we get 1 minus 0.56, which is equal to 0.44. So 0.44, in our interpretation, we say that it has substantial relationship. Okay, so we have their relationship. Therefore, we say that there is a substantial relationship between math and statistics score. Okay. Next, we have point-biserial correlation. So the point-biserial correlation are statistical procedures used with dichotomous variable. So what do you mean by dichotomous variable? Dichotomous means dalawa lang yung pwedeng maging result niya. So for example, we have sex, male or female, yon, or truth value, true or false, yes or no. So yun yung tatawag nating dichotomous variables involved in an interval scale analysis. Okay, so that's the use of point-biserial correlation. So unlike sa persons R na gumagamit ng interval, ang Spearman's na gumagamit ng ranking or ordinal, and then we have point-biserial, which ito naman gumagamit siya ng dichotomous variables which involve interval scale. Okay, so for the formula of our point-biserial correlation, we use R, which is equal to the mean of the x when y is 1. So yun yung mean of x sub 1 natin, then minus mean of x sub 2. So that's the mean of x when y is 2, or those labeled with 2, over our x sub x mean. Okay, so that is the standard deviation of all the x values multiplied to the square root of n sub 1, which is the number of the samples labeled as 1, times n sub 2, okay, over n times the quantity of n minus 1. So that's the formula of our point-biserial correlation. So actually, this is very easy. So for example, we have 4 females and 5 males. So for females, it is labeled 1. For males, it is labeled as 2. So of grade 2 who took a 20-item mathematics achievement test. So the results are given below. Determine the degree of relationship between the sex and the achievement test results. So we have the data in our screen. Okay, the first thing, at yung katangi-tangi natin gagawin, we have to compute for R. So definitely, we can now get the mean of x sub 1. Okay, x sub 1, yun yung lahat ng data na may labeled as 1. So we have 10, 17, 8, and 10. So 10 plus 17 plus 8 plus 10 divided by 4, which is the mean. Okay, the number of observation na merong 1 labeled as 1, which is 4. So we get 11.25. Then we have the mean of x, where we have yung y natin, which is equal to 2 or labeled as 2. Sometimes they don't use 1, 2. Sometimes they use 0, 2. So it does not matter. Basta malinaw sa atin kung ano doon yung 1 natin, ano yung 0 natin. Okay, so we have 9 plus 10 plus 18 plus 12 plus 19. So that is, those are the result ng achievement test na meron y result na 2. Okay, so we have divided by the number of those number nung ating observation na yun na merong label na 2 sa y. So 5. Okay, so we get 13.6. Okay, then as given, we have n sub 1, which is 4, and n sub 2, which is 5. Doon sa taas, we can see on the statement that there are 4 females. So therefore, our n sub 1 is 4, n sub 2 is we have 5 males. Okay? Then we get the standard deviation of our x mean. Okay, so the standard deviation by using the formula square root of the summation of x sub I minus the mean of x square minus n minus y, now it is equal to 4.25. Okay, so actually yung standard deviation, we already studied that in our previous videos. Okay, kung nakaligtaan natin, we go back to those video para makita natin how to compute standard deviation. Then after we get the standard deviation, we can now get the R. Okay, so we have R, which is equal to 11.25 minus 13.6. So you can refer doon sa ating formula para dito sa ating solution. Over 4.25 times the square root of 4 times 5 over 9 times 9 minus 1, which is now equal to negative 0.1957, which means that yung based on sa ating interpretation that there is weak relationship. Okay, so we can conclude that there is a weak negative relationship with our data, between our data, sex, and the achievement test results. So the negative relationship indicates that the higher the male's score in the exam, the lower the girl's score. Okay? Next, so ito, last in our correlation, we have phi coefficient. Okay, so we can determine phi coefficient if we have two nominal dichotomous variables. Kapag nominal siya na dichotomous, which is yun, dalawa yung pwedeng maging result. So we can use the formula R sub phi, which is equal to A times D minus B times C over the square root of the quantity A plus B multiplied to the quantity of C plus D times the quantity of A plus C times the quantity of B plus D, where our A is the number of cases that corresponds to the category of X sub 1 and Y sub 1, B, the number of cases that corresponds to the category X sub 1 and Y sub 1, C is the number of cases that corresponds to the category of X sub 2 and Y sub 1, and then D, which is the number of cases that corresponds to the category X sub 2 and Y sub 2. Okay, for example, we want to check the fee relationship of this contingency table. So we have the capital punishment. So we do have two. We have the sex, which is male and female, and then their if they are pro or anti with the capital punishment. So we have yes or no. So these are the results. Yung A natin, yun yung yes. So we have 6. We have no yes, female no, male yes are B 14, then C is 10, and then D is 13. Okay, so you can check the standard that we can use in this fee coefficient in our handouts para di tayo malito. Okay, so in computation, napakadali. We'll be just substituting the value of A, B, C, D. Then we get our R, or the fee, which is equal to 6 times 3 minus 14 times 10 over the square root of the quantity 6 plus 14 times the quantity of 10 plus 13 times the quantity of 6 plus 10 plus times the quantity of 14 plus 13. Then we get the fee value, which is equal to negative 62 over 198,720. Then our fee, the value of our fee is negative 0.000312. Therefore, in this particular result, we say that it shows that the opinion on the capital punishment, whether for or against, is almost zero and negative sign. Okay, negative side. Okay, so that is our correlation. We have the persons R, the spermans rank. We have the Pointbiserial correlation, and the last one is the fee coefficient. Okay, so we have regression analysis. So for regression analysis, you can study it. Okay, the computation of our regression analysis, but our regression analysis is used as a technique to achieve these objectives. Number 1, to describe the dependence of variable y on the independent variable x, to lend support to the hypothesis regarding the possible causation of changes in y by changes in x. That's something na yung number 2 objective natin, that's something na hindi natin makikita in correlation analysis, yung causality na tinatawag natin. The number 3, the purpose of prediction in y in terms of x. And then number 4, for purpose of explaining some of the variation of y by x. Okay, so in your handouts, meron tayong given example doon. You can study how to do simple linear regression analysis. So I am giving you that as your assignment to study regression analysis. Yes. Okay, so you can refer it to your handouts. Okay, so thank you guys. That's it for this video. So I hope you learned something about correlation and regression analysis. Okay, so good day and God bless.